Hello, Nerd Nation. Welcome back to another installment of the Survivor Thailand podcast here, talking about everything about Survivor Thailand. We're going to do every season of Survivor. We just last had Aaron voted off. And again, who is Aaron? If you know, tell me, because I didn't see a damn thing from her on Thailand. She really is, I really think, the first purple edit. Before Purple Kelly, Purple Aaron. Because really, in Marquesas, the purplest of people was Nalia, who was the runner-up, but we eventually got stuff from her later. Africa, Kim Johnson, who again was the runner-up, and we got sprinkles of things from her even. Really, we didn't get a lot of purple edits until I think Thailand started the purple edit phase. I think it's a little bit before we get another one. So we start out, Choigon feeling strong, like we've almost completed the pagonging. They're even making fun of Sook Jai, like, wow, they thought they were so big, and here we are, cutting them down. And Jake really trying to fit in with Choigon, really wants to find an opening here. And everyone's annoyed with Jake and his stories, especially Clay. Clay hates Jake. And we get the home videos reward with drinks. And the merge. We get Jake and Jan versus Clay and Ken. And then Penny and Ted versus Brian and Helen. And so Brian and Helen win, and Jake and Jan win, and then Brian and Helen win. So then it's Brian versus Helen. Brian wins reward, and his wife gives probably the worst reward video, because she's like, here's all your nice cars, and here's your piano that cost a bunch of money, and here's your beautiful house, and you're so smart and strategic, and no one's going to be able to beat you. Like, she doesn't say that last part, but basically she's kind of tanking his game, and Brian's like, oh, okay, that's enough there. I've seen enough here. And Ted, he saw a glimpse of his daughter, and now he's really sad because, he really misses home, and maybe he's even wondering how he's going to explain his Gandia situation. I think he's kind of isolating himself for a little bit. And Clay takes this opportunity to really talk to Brian about, getting Ted out and Brian and Clay. Because basically Brian now realizes that Clay is so disliked that he probably beats him in the end. So we get the tie number immunity, which is more of a kind of memory-based immunity. And it comes down to Clay and Ken, which Ken very surprised that he did this. Or in Clay even. And if it's Clay versus Ken, Ken wins almost every time. But this is the time where Clay wins immunity. And Jake kind of throws a Hail Mary here at the end and is like, hey, maybe we should vote out Brian because he's a big threat. And Jake, completely accurate with that statement. But Clay tells Brian about that. And Brian's basically like, well, he's on my radar now. But by a vote of 5-3, the Choigon versus Sook Jai, Ken, eighth person, or not eighth, Ken voted out, second member of the jury. So sad to see Ken go. I really think, I heard he was even in talks for All-Stars. Really sad he didn't play All-Stars because I think, but more than she and Ken could have benefited from it. So moving on here, Ted really concerned about the 3 votes that were for him. And Jake really trying to sell out Clay to Ted. Ted's like, no, you voted for me. You guys voted for me. Why me? Why am I the one getting votes? It's like, Ted, is this like a Lex situation all over again? Like, if you got some votes, especially when you know it's your tribe against their tribe and their tribe just voted for you, who cares? You didn't go home, and you're probably not going home. But if you make yourself look like an ass, then you're probably going to have a target on your back, you stupid idiot. Like, Jesus. I hate when people do that. That was the one thing I hated about Lex from Africa, is that he got so mad about the votes that were put on him. Because I guess they think they're just going to steamroll through the game, and it doesn't always work out like that. Brian, not very wary of Jake, though. He's like, Jake's smart, and, you know, he's a worthy opponent, and I need to make sure he goes. So do a pair reward, and, you know, whoever is, like, the odd person out doesn't get a partner, which is Jake. And so we get Helen and Jan, Penny and Ted, Clay and Brian. Comes down to, like, Clay, Ted, and Brian, and Brian and Clay choose each other over Ted, and that pisses Ted off. And Brian even takes Clay on the reward. And Ted's like, hey, why wasn't I the one picked, and why you take him on a reward? And Ted's really just pissing people off left and right here. And Brian's in a great spot, though, because right now Clay and Ted are fighting over who goes to the final two with Brian, which puts Brian in a fantastic situation. And Jake takes this opportunity with Brian and Clay gone to try to talk to Helen. Like, hey, Brian and Clay are threats. We need to work together against them. And then Clay brings back some soup and beer. Got a little bit of food brought back here. And Penny leaves Jake. Like, Penny's trying to turn on Jake at this point because she feels like that's her way to get to the next round. Which, people could argue, why not try to work with Jake, win over Helen? But that I don't think Penny is capable of that kind of maneuverability. And it's easier for her to try to get to the final six and maybe win something and see what happens. Clay, at this point, really trying to manage the jury. Doesn't really want Penny upset with him. And we get the Thai culture Q&A immunity. Whereas Penny's out, then Clay, then Jake, and Brian and Jan. Comes out to Ted and Helen. Helen wins immunity. Jake really does feel betrayed here by Penny. And again, this is probably not the smartest move to turn on Jake. Jake's her only ally. And now it's a lot harder to be in a 5-1 situation than it is a 5-2. Ted, he wants to target Penny. He wants Penny gone. The votes come out 4-2-1. Penny voted out of Survivor. Final thoughts on Penny here. Oh, boy. It is just... She had potential. I really think she did, but she made a lot of bad decisions. It really did. And had Sheehan maybe not made that blunder at the fake merge, maybe Penny goes instead of Sheehan. Third member of the jury is Penny Ramsey. So we get back to camp, and Clay's pissed that his name came up. And it's Clay versus Jake. Ted's kind of annoyed with both of them. And then we get this moment. Jake's kind of keeping a journal of his adventure for his wife. And we get the loved ones reward. The loved ones have to partake in a gross eating challenge. And Jake really wants to see his wife. But Helen really wants to see her husband. And Helen's husband wins the loved ones eating challenge. And he is going to spend the night with the tribe. And Jake really is proud of his wife for going as far in the challenge as she did. And so Helen and Jim took this time, really bonding and talking about the experience and how crazy it's been. So we get this cube puzzle immunity with the loved ones helping them out. And Ted and his brother win immunity. Helen and Brian then take the time to discuss Clay and where Clay fits into this Choigon situation. And the vote comes out 5-1. Jake, the man who started the Sook Jai tribe, the last remaining member of the Sook Jai tribe, voted out here in 6th place. Really was sad to see Jake go. Again, him and Jan, Ken are probably the only people I like in Thailand. Xian's like, I kind of like her, but I really do like Ken and Jake and Jan. But Jan does get annoying. But Jake, I really did think he had potential to do some great things, but really had some bad luck. So, with that, we're in the final 5. The Choigon are still around. They completely pagonged Sook Jai. And now it's may the best skater win in Breidik Heidik terms. And they get the mirror, which is basically like, let's pass some time on the episode, and everybody's looking at how bad they look. Ted really worried about Brian, and if he's splintered from that agreement, which he never actually made. Helen and Ted, they're talking about Clay. And they're like riding in the sand to each other. But Jan sees them riding in the sand, and she runs that back to Brian, who talks to Clay about it. So Ted in a bad spot here. And they get this obstacle rope maze thing. And it's for a car and a spa day. Ted wins the car curse and brings Helen for the spa day. And Ted proceeds to get very drunk. And he's getting his massage. And he's it is funny watching Ted get the. He's like, whoa, whoa, the whole time. And Helen's like, Jesus Christ, I'm stuck on this damn reward with this drunk ass. It's so good. Such good TV. Brian and Jan, they're talking about Helen and Ted. Helen is trying to just navigate her way here. Puzzle, we get this, it's a puzzle staircase kind of immunity. Brian Heidik wins immunity and is figuring out who works for him in the game. And by a vote of 4-1, Big Ted voted out of the game. 5th place, ending phase 3, and wow, is he going to be bitter about that later. So yeah, that happens. Crazy shit. And now we're going to get into the final 4 of Jan, Brian, Helen, and Clay. So, the end is in sight, and they're basically, and it's weird that they do this here, but they make floats for all of the past, the voted out survivors. And they play the past challenges immunity, which happens about every season. They just conglomerate a bunch of past challenges into one big obstacle course. Brian Heidik wins immunity again. That's 2 in a row here. Helen, she's like, man, I really needed that immunity. I think I'm in a really bad spot now that Ted's gone. Brian's like, yeah, Helen's a huge threat. We need to vote her out. And Jan's like, oh, I don't know. I can't do that to Helen. I think I might have to vote with her. And Brian's like, hey, that's 2v2. You want to go to rocks? Do you, Jan? The vote comes out 3-1. The fear of the rocks. Helen voted out. Final thoughts about Helen's game here. She really did a great job. She just found herself at a odd spot. Jan not wanting to really fight the power, and Brian was just a little too powerful. Helen was a character. And she's a radio host now, and I would really like to listen to her radio show. I think she'd be quite funny. She had some, funny moments on the show. Not my favorite Survivor player, but, definitely interesting television. So the final three, they release all the floats of the fallen, all the past players, and the best part about that whole thing is for Rababas, like, because they always play like a little clip from the people and them talking about their experience in Survivor. And for Rababa, one of the clips is him choking Clay. And I laughed my ass because they have this like tender music playing, like, da-da-da, and he's choking a man. God, that is great television. You could tell the editors didn't even like these damn people. So we get this immunity challenge where they're in like this really hot cave, and they have to hold these coins in their fingers, with like the game slipping through their fingers, and they're like on these they're in a weird position where these like this wood thing's holding them in place. Brian Heidick wins final immunity, so that's his third immunity in a row. Tough decision. Who to take to the end, but he decides, Clay is very disliked. So he's going to vote out Jan, one of the more likable people, and take Clay to the end of the game. And they decide they're burying the boat, their terrible boat, and preparing for the jury questioning. And the jury, Aaron says, why does the other person not deserve to win this game? And Ken, he gets in this argument with Brian, and that doesn't pan out well. Like, he's like, you said this. And Brian's like, I never said this. And that's pretty much the whole thing of Ken's speech. And Penny's basically like, do you know anything about me? And Clay knows a lot about Penny. He paid attention, whereas Brian doesn't know shit about Penny. Ted calls Clay a racist, and I don't like Clay Jordan. I think he's a terrible human being, but he's not a racist. And Clay's even like, what the hell are you talking about? Helen's like, Brian, you betrayed me. How dare you betray me? And it's like, this jury is heated. And Jan basically says, who's the harder worker? Which, Jan, this isn't a normal tribal. It doesn't really fucking matter at that point. And so Clay's kind of responses are all, it's a game. I played the game to my best. And Brian, kind of the same thing. Hey, I played this game strategically, and I did the best I could to maneuver. And if you don't respect me for it, I guess that's okay. So the vote comes out 4-3. Brian Heidick, the winner, Survivor Thailand. My final thoughts on Jan was, she was great television. She seems like a sweet lady, but she is not a good Survivor player. My final thoughts on Clay Jordan. I mean, the vote was 4-3. He got more, I believe he got Penny's. I think he got Ken's and Aaron's. I think Brian got the, maybe. Brian got the 4 votes. But he almost won. Like, Clay is 1 vote away from winning this. He should have been voted out a long time ago, but he was willing to do more strategizing than anybody else was with Brian. I don't think he's a great guy. I think he's a terrible guy, but he was interesting television, definitely. And, really did have a good strategy. But I think if he ever played again, he'd be out first because nobody is willing to put up with him like Brian Heidick was. Brian, like I said, sleazeball human being, like a trash human being. But had a great Survivor strategy of being cool, calm, and collected. And it worked. And I think even if he played again, Brian Heidick would do well. So, I think he's a good winner. But this season overall was not a good season. It was full of mostly terrible people or forgettable people. And it was just nasty. It just really felt dirty and was really hard to watch. And with that, we're coming to Survivor Thailand to close. Join us next time as we talk about Survivor the Amazon, which is one of my favorite Survivor seasons of all time. Can't wait to see you guys there. Again, I'm Mac Taylor. Thank you guys so much. Have a good...
It's now time for the Strategic Gaming Survivor Awards. Who will be the best player? Who will be the worst player? Who will be named America's favorite? Who will be named Mac's favorite? Who will be named Mac's least favorite? Will tears be shed? Find out on the Strategic Gaming Awards.
Wasn't that a lovely introduction? So, for Survivor Thailand, best game, I am going to have to give it to Brian Heidick, the winner. And, the past couple of times I did not give best game to the winner. But I definitely have to give it to Brian. He had a specific game plan. He stuck to it, was rarely ever in any danger of going home, and he played it pretty smooth. He was the Iceman. He was cool, calm, and collected. And, I really do think that Brian is a great Survivor player. Not a great person, but a great Survivor player. And I think that's what matters here in strategic gaming. It's not called hugs and kisses. It's strategic gaming. The worst game, and there were some contenders for this. There were a lot of people that fucked up. But I had to think about who fucked up just the worst. And I'm going to go with Stephanie. Because Stephanie Jed and Rob Zabotnik go hand in hand. But Stephanie really could have gone far in this game if she just played along. Just went with the group and didn't sleep out in the rain and get sick. She made a lot of errors. She was isolating herself constantly. And that is what was the downfall of her game. So I really do think, she had to try to go out when she did. She could have just effortlessly made, the Aaron spot. We're going to do least favorite player now. And again, this season is riddled with people who could be my least favorite player. Was not a fan of most of these people. But I am going to give this award to Clay, because I thought maybe Gandia, maybe Ted, but maybe Rob, but ultimately I'm gonna give it to Clay because I think he was mean spirited and he was genuinely probably a nasty person. But really it was not that enjoyable to watch on TV as far as comfortability. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Clay my least favorite player. Now my favorite player, and this was a little harder because of the specific season we were watching, but my favorite player goes to Jake from Sook Jai. I love Jake. I'm sad he never played again. He was super enjoyable, and he started the Sook Jai tribe, and he was the last one of the Sook Jai tribe. It was very poetic.
And that was the Survivor Strategic Gaming Awards. Stay tuned next time for the Amazon. Ba-da-boop-a-doo-doo-doo-doo, boom, 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 boom,